a guy like Kyle Busch, it feels like he just every week gets further and further away from that bubble cut line here. But this week, just another incident with another guy you probably wouldn't expect him even rubbing elbows with a few years ago. But Kyle Busch and Corey LaJoie get into it in stage 3 there at. LaJoie's whole team radio was very interesting to hear. But I guess my question to you is, first of all, is it anyone's fault? Was it a racing incident, or is everyone right to be throwing the pitchforks out at Corey LaJoie?
I mean, it I have a hard time, really blaming Corey LaJoie because this is the type of thing you see at Pocono often. You see guys kind of dive to the bottom and, try and get rid of the side draft and stuff like that. It kind of feels a lot like, it's going to be a similar take of mine that I had with the Ricky Stenhouse and Kyle Busch thing in the All-Star break. Is it something, an honest racing move? Yes, absolutely. Did it necessarily need to happen right then and there? I don't think so. And, I'll say this. The thing that stuck with me the most is poor Kyle Busch, man. That guy is so checked out with everything he's got going on. The interviews just get worse and worse every week. It just feels like if he could click a button and just basically wipe this season, Men in Black style, away from everyone's memory, he would do it at this point, because it has been nothing but just week after week of just weird collisions, awful technical issues. I mean, Kyle Busch has never been more frustrated in his NASCAR career. I'll say that much.
Yeah, and you heard Jeff Burton even talking about the post interview where he said, that's a Kyle Busch where a lot of fans, you wonder what kind of Kyle Busch you're going to get. But for Kyle Busch, it's not even worth opening the Pandora's box with Corey LaJoie there, where it's a guy who, like I said a couple of seconds ago, you're not used to even rubbing elbows with. It's a guy who you're used to being miles ahead of. It just kind of shows where your pace is at right now. And like Jeff Burton said, for Kyle Busch, he's got enough on his plate to worry about. He doesn't need another driver to deal with, because if you feed into a guy like Corey LaJoie, who needs something like this to get himself going, to pump himself up, to get his career going in a right direction, when historically he has been off to a horrible start this season. I said coming into last week when Rodney Childers was hired for him in the YouTube channel, I think outside of the Daytona 500, one top 15 finish in the entire season for a guy that's supposedly the veteran driver at Spire. So, I really, as much as you want to blame Corey LaJoie, I think it's part of just what he is as a driver. He's an aggressive driver that races toward the back of the field and gets people in bad positions just because he's in a bad position, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And he drags Kyle Busch down with him.
It is kind of like a Kirkland brand, less quality version of Kyle Larson, because obviously Kyle Larson does this in the front of the field and puts guys in interesting spots and that type of thing. But that may be the only time that Corey LaJoie and Kyle Larson could be mentioned in the same sentence, when you're making that abstract of a connection there. It has just been, it just feels like, when you look at Corey LaJoie right now, everybody seems to have this really positive, had this positive outlook for so long. And it just feels like that narrative has flipped so quickly in the past year. And, today just kind of feels like the cherry on top, in my opinion. It just kind of cements our, I think our shared opinion of Corey LaJoie, that it just was a lot of potential that never necessarily panned out. And it's a shame to see, but it's the truth at this point.
And part of it is not his fault. I think the radio messages we got on the broadcast were from his crew chief and his spotter, saying how we don't effing care. They dump themselves, all that. But again, it's just, it adds up where it's this guy who's been championed as this underdog who's just been in the bad equipment and needs a chance. Obviously, his moment in Chase Elliott's car at Gateway last year, that's Hendrick's worst track in theory on the schedule there. So there's a lot of bad timing. But at some point, there's just excuses after another here. And you kind of get sick of it, I think, more or less. And I don't even know where to go with it, because, like I said, for Kyle Busch, he doesn't even need to be in a beef with someone like Corey LaJoie. That should be way above him. But like you said, he's just in a absolute funk right now. And RCR as a whole is in an absolute funk right now, because you looked at today, not only was Kyle Busch a non-factor there, had to start at the rear of the field because I think they changed the oil line in the car, really struggled to even get up there to begin with in the day. So it wasn't like he was even on the top 20. But Austin Dillon was 23rd. RCR as a whole is just failing right now.